Let's talk about range names in Excel. We'll go through a number of examples. Now, range names are fundamental to a power user of Excel. You can use them basically for four things. You can use them for variables to hold just one item of data, or you can use them as a data source. You can define a table or a database or a list. You can define a contiguous area, in other words, one area as one range, but it doesn't have to be one area by itself. It can be several areas and what we call non-contiguous. And you can use them in formulas, and you could write your own formula and call it by a name. Microsoft describes it this way. You can use a name for a cell reference, and it is the set of cell coordinates on a worksheet, like for example B3, but it could easily be A1 to B100. You can put in a constant, a value that is not calculated, the number like 210, or the text quarterly earnings. They are examples of constants. You can name an expression or a value resulting from an expression. You can use them in a formula. You can either name the formula or you can use it in a formula. And I'll show you some examples of that. It's probably better to look at the actual hands-on example. And then of course you can name a table. So that's what Microsoft has to say about it. I'm going to show you an example of using price as a variable. Have a look at this spreadsheet here, and you'll see in this cell up here in the top left hand corner, you'll see that is called price system. Right, so the price of the system is $88. I can actually refer to it by bringing down this drop box, and here's all the range names that I have used in this application, and I want the price of the system. There it is, it goes to it, so that I can actually type in equals price, and it will Microsoft will bring down a list, and I could actually choose that one and it'll put in for me, and there we have 88, which I could format comma. Now we can use that in formulas as well. So let's put that away and let's get back to our PowerPoint. If you use the shortcut Control F3, you get this name manager, and in name manager you'll see a list of all the names. Here I've just got name 1 twice, and here you want to be a little bit careful, because you see on sheet 1 there's name 1 and its scope is the whole workbook, whereas this name 1 is confined to the scope of sheet 2. Now you actually don't want to do that. I did it deliberately so that you can see that there could be some ambiguity in names. So try not to do that. But anyway, Name Manager will give you a long list of names in a worksheet. You can use range names as a data source and use those data sources in a formula. For example, here's a formula: SUMIFS, amount code, and CE. Let's have a look at this. And here in this example, if you can see that up there, let me actually copy that and put it over here and enlarge it so you can see it. You see here that my formula is SUMIFS amount code D7, and that's that formula from that cell. Now the formula in this cell is the older way of doing it, and that was SUMIF, and I used SUMIF for years. It was my favorite function, and now the Microsoft has added, so you can still use SUMIF, but SUMIFs with an S on the end gives you a slightly different order. You see this says a range called code and then criteria D8 and add up the amount. Now SUMIF says I want to add up the amount according to the criteria area, which is code, and the example is in D7. So I want you to have a look here. That says SUMIF's amount code D7. If I come to my range box, pull it down and go to amount, there are my amounts from a trial balance, right? And that amount goes down for 1194 rows. Then I can look up code, and guess what? That's my code that I've put in there. And in this application, what I've done is said add up all the cash and cash equivalents, add up the AR, add up the inventory, add up the short-term investments, according to what I have labeled these as down here, and it's very easy to get a balance sheet that balances. Notice that one balances with that one. The difference is that. Let's put that away. And another application that I use all the time is to name a range for my print areas. For example, in this application here, I actually have, there we are, print balance sheet trend, and that defines the area there that I actually want to print. This means I don't have to come down here and say, alright, I want that area there, and now print that area. And I can have multiples. For example, this is the comparatives, and this is the cash flow. So isn't that nice? And you see there is still print area in there, which was defined as that. Okay, so that gives you another application for range names. And that's basically all I have to say. I just wanted to give you an introduction to range names.